father looking for his two missing sons that went missing during the war. Mitrovica, Kosovo, 1999. Mustafa Zaya shows two of his sons' photos who he fears were killed by Serbs. He had just recently been released from a Serbian prison and was forced to cross over the border with Albania. Later, he found out his sons were safe. A couple at Woodstock only 48 hours after they met, and the same couple 50 years later, happily still together. Bobby Gibb, first woman to run the Boston Marathon in 1966. She ran without a number because women were not allowed into the race. This photo shows Dr. Zbigniew Religa keeping watch on the vital signs of a patient after a 23-hour heart surgery he conducted in 1987. In the lower right corner, you can see one of his colleagues who helped him with the surgery asleep. Dr. Religa was a pioneer of heart transplantation in Poland, and even though the surgery was considered borderline impossible at the time, he took the chance, and the operation was entirely successful. The patient in the photo would go on to outlive Dr. Religa. East German soldier helps a little boy sneak across the Berlin Wall the day it was erected in 1961. The boy had been left behind in the chaos of people fleeing to be with their families on either side of the wall. Bildez, the sheep-headed men, the white Ecuadorian cannibals Echo and Eco, and the ambassadors from Mars, George and Willie Muse were world-famous sideshow performers in the early 1900s. But even their white audiences hardly knew the horrors of their story. Born black with a rare form of albinism, they were targeted by a traveling freak hunter when they were just boys and kidnapped from their Virginia home. Then they were forced to grow out their hair and sold to a series of traveling sideshows, including Ringling Bros. They weren't allowed to go to school or learn to read, and they never saw a dime, though their handlers made a fortune off of them. They were even told that their mother was dead, so that they would stop begging to go home. Their years of enslavement finally ended in 1927, when Ringling Bros found its way back to Roanoke, and George recognized their mother in the crowd. "There's our dear old mother," he said. "Look, Willie, she is not dead." Arnold Schwarzenegger with Wilt Chamberlain and Enter the Giant on the set of Conan the Destroyer, 1983. In 1990, an improperly installed window on British Airways Flight 5390 fell off during mid-flight, causing rapid decompression in the cockpit. Flight attendant Nigel Ogden just happened to be entering the cockpit when he heard the loud bang and saw the pilot getting sucked out. In the reenactment image, you can see Ogden holding on to his legs, while the co-pilot is trying to rapidly descend in order to reach a safer altitude. As the co-pilot attempted to contact air traffic control to make an emergency landing. Ogden was starting to develop frostbite from the severe cold. Most of the crew thought the pilot was already dead, but Ogden continued to hold on. There was also the fear that if he did let go, the body might collide with the plane's engine, wing, or stabilizer, creating more havoc. All he knew for sure was that the pilot was slipping further and further out the window, and his head was repeatedly slamming against the fuselage. After 15 minutes of flying with a broken window, the plane landed safely at Southampton Airport. Ogden suffered frostbite on his face and damaged one of his eyes. He also dislocated his shoulder. The pilot miraculously survived with frostbite and multiple fractures on his arms and hands. An investigation later revealed that the window that had been newly installed just 27 hours before the flight had used incorrect bolt sizes. Of the 90 bolts that were used, 84 of them were 0.026 inches 0.66 millimeter too small in diameter. The other 6 bolts had the correct diameter, but were short by 0.1 inches 2.5 millimeters. The bolts were supposed to be 0.8 inches, not 0.7 inches.